Hello, everybody. Whew. Welcome to another episode of Pot Scum. I am your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag, the hairball extraordinaire, Rex Ruger. That's Rex with 3 X's. You want to know why? Ask any lady out there, because I've had them all. You might also know me as Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., and the hard science will be coming in on that soon, and I will keep my fans up to speed when it does. But take one look at me. Is there any deny? Actually, let me take one look at me. Wow. And of course, if you want to have the locks that rock, this coif could not be made possible without this. That's right. You're looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked a few grams, always going out with a bang, got 1 million fans. Wop, bop-a-loo, bop-a, wop, bang, bang, shazam, hot damn. Whoo, whoo. You're looking at the hair metal high priest. That's right, the king of sleaze himself. And we got a good one for you today. We got a good guest. This is somebody that I am big time digging what he does. And you guys are going to too. And he's looking to get in here right now, so let's let him in. Got ourselves a good one here today. Yeah.
Check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
How you doing, my friend? How are you?
How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah. I see you got a good head of hair. I have a good head of hair.
Yeah.
This was made possible by being the offspring of Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. Can you see the resemblance? You can, right? You can.
Yeah, man.
The hard science isn't in on it yet, but it's gonna come around. You can tell, right? You can tell.
I can tell. 1,000%.
AJ Channer from Fire from the Gods. You know what, buddy? This is a band that I am just falling in love with a little more every day.
Thank you.
Just out taking a swim in the pool, had it cranking out there. I absolutely love what you guys do. So let me just jump right into it because I got so much stuff. I find you such an interesting guy from watching past interviews with you. The band is from Austin, Texas?
Yes, band is from Austin, Texas. We're based
and
you
guys formed in 2007. Now, you're the 5th lead singer. Why are we changing lead singer so much, AJ?
I mean, it's just like it's like any one of those things, like especially with a band, right? You get into a band with your friends from school, your kids. You start in the garage. You start doing this whole battle of the bands and shows.
Yeah.
And these guys grew, so they had a bit of a following. They had a bit of a of some traction and a foundation behind them. So they just kept going. And sometimes in those situations, which I've been in many, some guys just don't work out. But thankfully, my involvement in the band seems to have worked out.
Yeah, I would say so. Now, 2019's American Sun was the last album that we got from you guys. And you guys are about to go out on a very big bill, 5 Finger Death Punch and Megadeth.
Yes, sir.
What does getting on a bill like that mean for the band? Like, what do you guys like? You guys all get together and just start geeking out? Like, that's a pretty big bill to be on.
Yeah, well, this is our 3rd 5 Finger tour.
Yeah.
And I believe this is maybe our 3rd time doing venues of this size.
Yeah.
And so it comes with that magnitude, and with that it comes with a little bit of what is this going to do for our career? Where are we now?
Right.
And we're thankfully we're in a situation where we're managed by a very large management company in 10th Street. We have a very good label behind us in Better Noise, which where 5 Finger Death Punch's home is. And so you want to be able to go into that situation and present yourself in front of 5 Finger fans and say, hey, we are Fire from the Gods and this is what we do.
Yeah.
Now that works in one of two ways. People either embrace you or they're kind of like, not my cup of tea, but I'm really just here for 5 Finger.
Yeah.
In our case, we've been very blessed to be able to see people like, and this is this isn't the best way to put it, but we've been able to siphon fans.
Sure.
And so people see us and they're like, wow, that is a band I'd like to check out. So for us to get invited to be able to do something like that again, it just means we've got to go out and get the party started for the bill,
Right.
show people that we do belong there, because on paper, a band like us shouldn't be in that slot, right? That's supposed to be reserved for bands with a little bit more established, bands that have the that fit the bill, quote unquote. But we actually just happen to be this band that people like, and Five Finger Death Punch really likes us, so they invite us to do that. And plus, it helps grow up. It helps to grow our band and helps to grow our brand. So the short answer is we fucking love doing shows like this.
Yeah.
But the technical long answer is it's massively it's a necessity for our career, because you want to always do bigger and better. But it doesn't mean that we won't shy away from going and playing in clubs where 500 people are, as opposed to playing for 2,000 to 3,000 people a night.
Right. So you guys, you know, when people are like researching your band or trying to find you guys or just doing a Google search on you guys are a band that blend a lot of different genres. And now with heavy metal in particular, but just music in general, having so many of these subgenres and everything, does it drive you nuts when you see like, oh, they're a metal band with hip hop elements and hardcore elements? Do you just like to think of yourself as just a rock band? I mean, you know, does that drive you crazy sometimes with the metal kids just have to like pigeonhole you into some kind of a box?
You know, I'm so glad you said that, man, because a lot of people don't ask that, because people really want to feed into the whole, you guys are this and that, and
I hate it.
This, and it's that. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, we don't want to take away from we will never escape the fact that at the core of it, we're a metal band, because that's what drove us and brought us together, right? Our mutual love for metal, the fact that bands that we look up to are super heavy bands. You know, that we'll never forget that. But our influences do not determine who and what we are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just like to, so like you said, I just say, hey, we're a rock band.
Right.
We're a rock band. But, you know, I'm now kind of like embracing this whole thing, like, oh, we're part of this new resurgence of new metal. And it's like, okay, if that's what floats your boat, if that's what floats your boat, if that's what makes it more accessible for you, and it makes it feel a little bit more familiar to you, then fuck it. I'm a fucking new metal man, dude. Let's go.
And now you got a very interesting upbringing, because you were kind of like all over the place, right? Sometime in the Bronx, sometimes in Ghana, sometimes in London, sometimes you have Jamaican roots or whatever. So you did a lot of moving around. Do you think that that absorbing all those different environments and all those different cultures, how has it shaped the music that you make?
It's very indicative of my upbringing is very indicative of the music that I make, and you can see it, you know. So one fed the other, in some regard, and so it's not because I've had those influences, but I think I was able to bring out a little bit more of who I am as a person because of those influences, because of the reggae, because of the hip hop, because they all kind of run together. I mean, reggae and hip hop and even punk rock and hardcore all kind of stem from the same musical beginning, you know? So I don't really say like, oh, because I was in England, I got this punk and ska influence and world music, or because I was in Africa, I was exposed to world music and, you know, some of the Afro beats that kind of like the reggae style. And because I'm Jamaican, I don't think it's because of that. I think it's more or less those things were already there, and I just tapped into it. And being that I was able to travel and absorb some of those cultures, like you said, I was able to tap into that.
And now how old are you? And when do you first discover that singing was a route, or the entertainment industry was a route that you wanted to go?
Quite early, you know, like some kids, you know, it's a dream. Oh, I want to be a singer, and you put on your little show for your family.
Yeah, we're all playing air guitar in our bedrooms.
Exactly. But I was always involved in some sort of musical performance, some sort of performance from a very young age, and I always gravitated towards it. And it wasn't something that was like, my mom wasn't like, you're going to do this. It was just something that I latched onto from a very early age, and I was always finding ways to perform. I played trumpet, I played drums, I played piano, I sang classical, I performed in musicals, all that. So the thing was, I wanted to do this, and it was always going to be. But when I woke up one day and was like, "Fuck this heavy shit, this rock shit," that's what I want to do. I was in high school and like started getting into Slipknot and Rage Against the Machine and things that were super popular on the radio station in New York City on K-Rock, you know, and then started jamming in music class with some dudes. Never really playing shows, but like 4 guys get together. One guy plays guitar, one guy plays bass, one guy plays drums, the other guy grabs the mic. So I started doing that. And then it just really dawned on me, and it became this thing that said, I really want to do this. But going to a show in Brooklyn and seeing, I saw Candiria play, and then I went to, which was in a smaller club. Then I went to CB's, and I saw some local punk bands, and I was like, this is fucking cool. And then I went to Slipknot at Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, and I was like, this is insane.
Blown away.
This is exactly what I want to do. And I've diverted at times, but it's always been in the back of my mind. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity that I actually do get to do this now. I live that fucking dream.
And now you were raised by a single mom and a single parent, and your mom is a nurse or was a nurse?
She was, yeah.
That's what I do by day. That's actually my day job. And I'll tell you what. Wow. I'm the best looking nurse that I know too. I mean,
you know, I bet everyone, but you have the best bedside manner as well.
Easily, far and away, yeah. Did your mother? Because you know, I know she sent you over to Africa to kind of go back to like, what was that kind of like like go back to the motherland and kind of get education?
Yeah, I mean, right? You know, African parents do that, and so she had friends. And, you know, it's like Caribbean parents do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like a thing in the Black community. Yeah. So it's like, so it was like, go learn how to be a man sort of thing.
Yeah. But did your mother have any other aspirations or dreams from you? Or, you know, or was she okay? Like when you came to her and said, hey, you know, I'm getting into rock and roll.
Oh, no, she was definitely not into it.
Not supportive.
she was supportive in the sense that this is my kid and I'm going to support my kid in whatever he wants to do. But do I think this is what you should be doing with your life? No. Now she's like, you know, I'm a grown man. So it's like, hey, work hard and take care of your family. But my dad was really where the music came from.
Okay.
Because my dad was a reggae producer and promoter. And worked with tons of artists. So I was around rappers and around reggae performers from a very early age and at massive shows, seeing people perform on stage. So it wasn't just being around rock music and going to church and seeing live musicians. Like I actually saw like touring musicians playing from a very early age at shows that my dad was that my dad promoted. So you know, that's kind of a lot where the music and the performance aspect came from.
So mom probably wanted to see like Dr. AJ Channer or AJ Channer Esquire, attorney at law.
My grandmother played pro tennis, and she was always like, "Oh, you have the physique, you can be a pro tennis player." Blah, blah, blah. You know, my granddad was like, "Hey, go play basketball." You know, but there was never really any real pressure on. It was just in our home and in our family, it was, you know, just get grades, listen to your mom, and try and live a clean life. Because
were you an athletic guy though? As you were growing up, were you athletic? Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, I played soccer growing up.
Yeah.
I played soccer. I played all the way up into college. I could have played professionally, but I wasn't that good. But I was close enough.
Now I saw a quote that you, and I don't know how far back the article goes, but where you were referring to either yourself or your band as a political chip. What does that mean to you? Like when you say something like that, does that mean like, cause I want to get into like, the flack that sometimes you might get or the pushback that you might get from being African-American and being in the metal genre. Is there a lot of pushback or is that kind of gone away kind of? Because I remember going to high school with an African-American friend of mine that took a lot of flack from other African-American kids because he was a headbanger.
Yeah, that was a thing when I was growing up. And I'm sure kids still go through it. Now that but I've always been secure enough in myself to be like, this is what I do. I don't give a shit. But you know, I went to high school in New York City. So kids were like, yo, well, you listen to that Metallica shit. Oh, that's white boy shit. Oh, oh, you skateboard. That's white people shit. You know, you go through that But now, I mean, walking into a room, yeah, the percentage of people that look like me are definitely a lot lower than the percentage of people that look like you or anyone else. But the
Sure.
fact is this, we don't really get into that world where people are like, oh man, you're a black dude doing rock like that. I think that's kind of like, I think that's faded a little bit as in my generation, I think. But I know it was definitely tough for your friend, and I know it was hard back in those days because you were never white enough to be in the white. You never felt white enough, right? Because you weren't white, but you're actually black, and you were regarded as not being black enough because you like something that was known as white music. But hey, look at it now. Kids are rapping and everywhere. And that's why when people say like white dudes rapping, oh my God, what are you doing? That doesn't belong to you. I think it's bullshit.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
as products of the 90s, as products of our generation and where we come from, hip hop and rock music shaped the music that we listened to and shaped the culture and the way we spoke and the way we related towards each other. So it was only going to be the natural evolution of music that everyone would be doing everything.
Well, I also think it's interesting too because I think that the spirit of rock and roll and hip hop is the same, where it's kind of like that punk rock mentality of kind of like, anti-establishment, freedom, right? I mean, so you mentioned some of the rock bands that kind of blew your mind early on. Did you grow up listening to a lot of rap, and who are some MCs and hip hop artists that you've taken as an influence?
Oh man, of course. I mean, I grew up listening to a ton of hip hop and R&B, man. But the earliest stuff was obviously KRS-One, Grandmaster Flash. You hear that kind of stuff. Slick Rick was a big thing in my household because Slick Rick, my dad knew Slick Rick's family. You know what I mean? My dad knew a lot of Big Daddy Kane was around. You know what I'm saying? Heavy D, all those guys from the Bronx and stuff like that. So, and then as I grew older, Pac, Biggie. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Fat Joe.
Yeah.
That's
stuff you just couldn't avoid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I got into some of the quote unquote underground guys, and I found Aesop Rock. I found Everlasting solo stuff. I found guys like Vinnie Paz and Jedi Mind Tricks, stuff like that. Obviously, Wu-Tang was heavily in the backdrop. Those dudes were lyrical geniuses and said things that in such a poetic manner that it sounded like the way Freddie Madball also delivered his vocal. You know what I'm saying? It was so New York. It was so real. It meant something, and I related to it. So when I heard Rage Against the Machine and I heard Zach De La Rocha, I was like, holy shit. Yeah. This is the perfect marriage of everything that I've been trying to say and want to say and everything that I've listened to.
So do you think it's important, because I know that a lot of times people bag on people that have a platform that are actors or in the public eye for bringing their views and their activism and their political stances, into their music or voicing their opinions. Do you think that that's important, though? Do you think that you should use it that way? Because I know a lot of people are of the opinion like, I listen to you for your music or watch you for your movies, but I don't give a shit what you believe, like politically. Keep that to yourself. But do you feel that has to be voiced in your music? Because I noticed a lot of the hip hop artists you said, KRS-One, Wu-Tang, it's not a lot of that, just talking about your bling and your women and your money and stuff. They're guys with something to say, commenting on the social landscape that's going on. Did you feel that's important in your music?
I feel it's important in my music, but I don't feel it's important in everyone's music. There are some bands that I love and some bands that we tour with, that are my peer bands, Bad Omens, those are bands that, the Breaking Bends of the world, the Shine Downs of the world, they make really good, awesome rock songs that don't really touch on any particular subject, but the human condition. And that's cool. And that's fine. I only talk that way is because I've been exposed to it. I was raised that way. And I think politics isn't the grand landscape of my music isn't just based in politics. I think there's more of a social call to action and a social aspect more so than just a specific political aspect. I do say inherently, because I am a black man in America, my very existence is political. So I have
Sure.
to, I can talk on that and talk about that. But I believe my message transcends just the color of my skin. I think that my message is for everyone, and especially every American, because that's where I take that into particular heart when I talk about what I'm talking about, because I speak about it from the perspective of a young American man growing up in the Western sort of environment, and that's the position that I come from, and that's where my stance and my platform is based. So I just I try to say as much as I possibly can on those type of subjects and what relates to the everyday person that's just like me.
Now, how does it influence you when obviously we had a lot of stuff going on in the world when COVID hit? There was a lot of there was just a lot. It was a very turmoil filled time, in American history.
Everything, of course.
Yeah. That's what I was going to get at. Where are you, and what's the first thing that you're thinking here in the 21st century when you see a guy like George Floyd just right on camera, blatantly getting murdered? How does it make you feel as a black man in this country, and how did it shape you creatively? Did it make you just want to say, I got to put pen to paper, this is inspiring me, this is something needs to be said or done about this? How did it affect you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I got very involved around that time. Just to a little backstory on what was going on with myself and with Fire from the Guards when that happened. The situation when he died, and then the protest and everyone got together and the riot happened and the burning of that Target. I think that happened on a Thursday. I was in Minneapolis on the Monday. There filming, talking to people. We shot some footage for a video. Yes, I did put pen to paper and want to get creative, but I had this record out already, American Son, which, I mean, there's no better time for a record like that. And the beauty of it, which cemented the fact that people know that we're real, is that the record was written before all that happened. So it inadvertently became
prophetic
the soundtrack.
Prophetic.
It
was almost prophetic, almost.
It became the soundtrack for this very tumultuous time in the States. Now, to talk about my personal feelings on that,
please.
Police brutality and policing in America has reached, I think, this all-time high of as much as people can take. And I think we've gotten to a point where policing in America has become extremely corrupted and has become perverted. And it's become perverted with malice, perverted by hate, perverted by greed, perverted with this power struggle that's happening. And the police are evolving into this goon squad for the elite and for the rich. And that has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has more so to do with your economic status, your socioeconomic status, and where you fall in the line of who you are and how you can be used. Now, unfortunately, with that comes the race issues because of the past that Black people have had in this country with, say, policing in America. There comes that issue. So you have to address that issue, for one, and know that there is a disproportionate amount of people of color in the criminal justice system, in the prison industrial complex. There is a disproportionate amount of colored people that have interactions with police every day, that have dangerous interactions with police every day. Now, I tell people like this because obviously the type of music that I play and the type of people that I come in contact with due to the type of music I play, you get people that think all sorts of different ways and have very different belief systems. But what we can agree on that American police should not be killing American citizens at the rate that they kill American citizens.
Agreed.
American citizens shouldn't be killing each other at the rate that we kill other citizens. But the fact is, within the system that we've created, that system is supposed to provide protection for everyone that falls under that system, and it should not be corrupted by the perversion, the greed, the hatred, the malice that corrupts each and every one of us every day. That system that we wanted to create that perfect union, that perfect system, should not be corrupted by these things and should not be perverted. And it has been perverted because the justice system has not stood up for people that have been that are at disadvantages, whether it be poor people, whether it be disabled, whether it be people who are typically looked at to be living on the fringes of society. Like the system does not support them, and everyone felt that because they used that situation that happened with George Floyd to basically cry out to the world and say this is wrong. And it's also happening to a lot more of us, and people want to see it stop happening. And then you have this whole cascading domino effect of it affecting everyone at a. Then we have the political stuff going on, right? So every politician used that and amplified it to amplify their particular stances, and that made it even worse. You know what I'm saying? Because that put people, that really took in one issue that is a real issue and convoluted it with everyone's disdain and disgust for where we are as a society, socially and politically. And I just happen to, I know I've gotten off topic a little bit, but I just happen to be the just to be that I've taken the responsibility to be the voice.
There are things that need to be said. Absolutely,
that needs to be said. And do I want people to get into a room and get riled up every night when I'm playing a show and say, yeah, I want to go out and burn some sort of civil building? No, I don't. That's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for people to weaponize their minds and weaponize their hearts and weaponize love and use that to fight these wars. So yeah, I was heavily affected and I felt terrible, and I felt the same way any black man is gonna feel when they see someone that, no matter what the guy did, I'm not looking at him from that bias. I'm seeing it from a very objective standpoint and saying that could have been me.
Well, you're basically seeing evidence of somebody playing judge, jury, and executioner right there in the street in the 21st century with people filming it. You know what I mean? Like on their phones. It feels like we haven't progressed at all from like the 1950s to now. You know, as a society.
Exactly. And that's a thing. And that's the other side of it. The effects that it has on everyone's brains and the effects it has on everyone's hearts and what children are seeing and what we're allowing ourselves to see. But that's where, I mean, the system has been corrupted, because the system is corrupted with these things that we now take for granted. We don't think it's a big thing for someone to profess their hate on television because freedom of speech. We don't think it's a bad thing to see someone beaten brutally or at a school because kids are going to be kids and these kids are just animals. We don't think it's a big thing to see someone shot and murdered in the street because we're like, well, it doesn't happen to me, because the system has been corrupted and it's now a mainstay in our psyche and the mainstay in the way we relate to each other. So do I think the world needs a bit of a political revolution? For sure. But I think the world needs more of an emotional and mental and spiritual revolution more so than anything.
What kind of a role, with racism still running so rampant, and obviously when something like that happens, you can still say racism is running rampant. I don't even know if all these years that have gone by, if it's really been curbed all that much, or people have just gotten better at hiding their racial disdain for people. But what kind of a role can music have in it, though? Like, what kind of a role do you see music being able to, because I think of music as almost like a form of therapy. It has the ability to change moods. It has the ability to get through to people. Do you think the particular field that you're in, the entertainment music, that that music can help to alleviate and bring down some of those walls, especially with an interracial band like yours? I think it's important for society to see a band like that.
1000%. And I think that our message is more important than anything we do. We're not the sexiest band in the world, and we're not here for sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah, we have a good.
That's my job. That's my job, AJ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a good time, and I love headbanging, and I love heavy music, and I love getting into a mosh pit and being there with the people at shows and getting down. But I feel that if I'm going to say something, I have to make it worthwhile, and I think that music plays a very huge part in that, in being that voice, that zeitgeist, telling the story. Yeah, films do it, but films, that's La La Land.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But if I'm telling the actual truth of my life and telling my truth, like, you know, hence the reason why I named the first record Narrative, because it was the story. It was my narrative, but at the same time, it was a narrative and a story that so many people could relate to.
Right, right.
And so me as a black guy fronting a metal band, I want people to understand that it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And but in the same breath, I also say, I don't need you to love me. I don't need you to like me. Just respect my right and my right to exist.
Well, I think the great thing is, though, is that, you know, and I don't want to play into the stereotypes, but typically heavy metal in the hard rock genre, you know, does cater to a very white audience. So I think it's great to see a guy of color fronting a band like that, because you can get that message out, and a lot of your audience is white people.
Yeah, I mean, but hey, man, I don't want to be that guy, but you know, I heard Seven Dust and I saw Lejeune, and I said, dude, that dude is singing. You know, that brother is up there doing it, and if he can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
And I never looked at it just because he was a black guy. It just was more or less, well, he looks like me, and he sounds so different.
Right.
And I'd love to sound just as different, just like that. I'd love to do what he did, take a little bit of that soul and that you know is R&B is known for, and that some of the older rock is known for, and bring it into this modern, super heavy, aggressive version of that, and still appeal to the headbangers. You know, like that was really what did it for me. But it just so happened that the guy's black too, so that's an added bonus.
A lot of the album topics that you touch on, and I've got like notes here on a couple of them: political unrest, political discord, environmental apathy. You guys speak out a lot about the environment. One of the interesting ones, and I'd like to get your feelings on this, was some people had made mention in different articles from rock journalists about technological overload. Talk to me about what that means to you a little bit. Is technology, while it has certainly a huge use in today's world, is it also being used irresponsibly, and is it making people just flat out like lazier and more unmotivated? I see what it's doing to a lot of kids, where these kids just can't get off their tablets and they can't stop staring at stuff. You know, how do we? I got grandkids too, so I see it firsthand. How is technology helping a society, but how is it also kind of failing us and taking us backwards? Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. So I've got a new wow. Both of those songs actually made it onto the record. Yeah. So on the new record, I touch on that a little bit. Yeah. I can't give too much away about names of songs, but I do touch on it because I think that technology, as it's made us so connected, we're so much more detached than we've ever been.
It's a very huge double-edged sword right now. It really is.
Ha! One of the songs. The song is called Double-Edged Sword.
Oh, then I guess I took it out of the bag, AJ.
So there's one song is called Double-Edged Sword, which touches mostly on that. Most of the song is about that. Yeah. And it's like, I say, and why it's a double-edged sword, because as you well know, like you said, am I the old guy that's sitting in the corner like, what the fuck is going on? I'm not, and this is killing us and I don't get it. Or am I just hating on these kids? Like, are they onto something that I'm onto? Or am I just like, well, I need it. I know I need it. I do it. I use it. I'm involved in it. I'm so immersed in it. Are we just losing our minds? And am I losing my mind? And am I saying something that I shouldn't be saying? I don't know, but it's a double-edged sword, because who knows? Right now, you and I are getting to communicate and share ideas. Two guys from two completely different backgrounds that have a common interest, but we're using technology to do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the beauty, and I'm using technology to spread this message of love and revolution, and self-determination. But someone else is using this to do a lot of evil. But there are other people that are just using it to control others. And then there's just this whole vapid, as you say, this vapid soulless existence that exists only within, because of the technological advancements and because of our dependence on the
Right.
technology, it now speaks for us. And so that creates this whole idea of, are we moving too fast, or is there just too much? And should I take a step back? But if I take a step back, am I going to get lost? Am I going to fall behind the times?
Right.
So it really is a double-edged sword. I don't have an answer for it, but all I can say is I can speak the truth of how I feel and how I think it makes other people feel. And hopefully that creates a conversation that maybe we've had a little bit too much, or maybe we're just not using it in the right way.
Well, I'd like what you say about it progressing fast, because nowadays, you know, you are kind of made to feel like, oh, I got the iPhone 10 at the beginning of the year. And by the time the end of the year comes around, 5 more iPhone versions. And then you feel like,
1000%.
God, I'm behind in the times here. You know what I mean? Now I'm the one with the slow phone, even though I feel like I just bought it. Or the thing that really concerns me the most is what it's doing to human interactions. Like when I go into a Barnes and Noble and see 5 young people sitting at a table and nobody's conversing and they're all just, you know, have their noses in their phones. I feel like it's really put a damper on like that human connection with people.
You know, and they see it as, this is my connection. This is my connection to the world.
Right.
Whereas these are our connection to the world,
right.
our senses. And I think our senses are being dulled. And I don't think we are catching up. I don't think humans are evolving quick enough with the technology that some of us are being lost, and some of us are getting to a point where I think it might be a little bit too much. I've had to cut we had to cut our kid off the tablet. You know, it was hard. It was hard, but she hasn't used one in weeks, and it's actually, I mean, she's improved a lot. I don't know if I want to reintroduce it into so soon, but I know that there's a way, you know, everything in moderation, right? I think that's the easiest way.
I think so.
The easiest way to deal with life. But unfortunately, some things don't just happen in moderation. Some things happen and there's too much of it. Or some things happen and there's not enough of it. When things like the conversation we're having about trying to eradicate and hopefully get rid of things like racism and discrimination. I think we've had a lot of conversations surrounding it, but maybe we haven't done the right things to help eliminate it. Maybe we haven't had the right conversations. Maybe that's why we're in this ever evolving door of these mistakes. Maybe that's why the situation between police and communities of color are still so strained, because we're not using the right way to speak with each other. And now we have technology, but all we see on TV of technology is, I say this, you say that, my opinion this, your opinion that. We're not seeing real communication. People are talking, but no one's listening.
Right. To shift focus to the music now, you know, completely different music industry. I'm 49 years old, completely different music industry from when I was a kid. And obviously, you know this, working in the business, very daunting, very tough, you know, to gain commercial success. You guys are fortunate, as I mentioned earlier, to get onto a great bill. It's going to get you guys lots of exposure. I noticed that American Son was a full-length album. It's very debatable. Do you go the full album route? Do you go it's a very singles-driven market? You know, people are putting out EPs. Where do you see you guys going in the future? And you know, how do you navigate the road of the music industry these days?
I think, and I had a conversation with Alan Kovac today, who owns Better Noise and has managed some of the biggest bands in history.
Yep.
So we are, you know, and he's like, we are in a streaming singles world.
Yeah.
But for us to integrate into society and into the minds of the listener and have them coming back for more, I think we need a body of work, and singles just aren't going to do it.
Right.
And people, and especially rock fans, are loyal, right? Extremely loyal.
I think so.
They're loyal to the history of a band. They're loyal to where they were in life when they first heard that band. They're loyal to the catalogs of a band. And that's why they'll pay and spend money to go and see a band. So if a few singles here and there, great. But I want to be a headliner that people come and see, and people want to continue to hear and want to spend money on, because that not only does that give me a career, but I know I'm helping somebody, and I know that people are hearing my music. I'm making
Right.
something that means something to someone.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, in the terms of the music industry now, for some of the newer bands, like bands that I talk to on the development side, I'm definitely like, yeah, let's make that landing on the moon moment, and let's come out with that big bang, that single. But let's start thinking in the minds of, yeah, let's get a body of work that will convince people to want to come and see us.
Now, the live experience now, obviously, is especially with album sales not what they used to be. Live and bands selling their merchandise has become almost paramount to a lot of bands' existence nowadays. Do you yourself go out and see a lot of live music when you have the chance, when you're not playing?
Man, I used to go to shows all the time, and I recently just went to 2 shows, which is a record for me, because when we're touring heavy and stuff like that, I want to be the furthest thing away.
Right.
But
right.
I've kind of I've told myself too, like fuck that. No, man. I love bands. I love metal, and I'm gonna go see bands. And the fact that I know I'm not gonna be fired from the gods and for the rest of my life, I'd like to eventually transition into the music business, the business side more so. So I'm like, yeah, I want to see bands. I want to see who's new. I want to see what's fresh. And I want to keep my ear to the ground. So I go to shows nowadays. So I will be going to shows.
Are there bands out there right now, and I've talked about this with other guests I've had on here, that have longevity in the music business? Are we in good hands going forward, though? Are there young bands that are going to, I mean, you guys are obviously one of them, but are there other young bands that you're seeing out there that are carrying the torch? And who are some bands out there right now that have you excited about the future of music?
I think I know right now everyone is really looking for the next Corns, the next Slipknot, the next big, the headliners, those people that can fill amphitheaters and stuff like that can fill arenas. And we are starting to see the fruits of that labor. We're starting to see that bands like that Trinity of Terror tour that went out with Iceland Kills, Black Veil Brides, and Motionless in White. That did so well that they had to do a second leg, and they had to do it in bigger venues.
Right.
Bands like From Ashes to New and Memphis Mayfire are selling out 500 to 1,000 cap rooms. We've got bands like younger bands like Dropout Kings that are starting to get really mentioned and talked about. You've got bands like Kingdom Collapse who are working super hard and getting a lot of play in the active rock world. Fire from the Gods, we're kind of existing in this in between metalcore and underground and active rock. So we're catering to this kind of newer generation. And I'm starting to see that these bands knocked loose. All these bands are really starting to get some real traction and get a lot of bodies into a room. So will we see that breakout success that we saw from like Corns and Slipknots? I don't know, but I do know that there's going to be enough music and enough really good bands out there for you to want to go check them out and say, I'll actually give that band a go.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about when you're about to go onto the stage? What's your main concern as the front man of a band? Like, what goes into putting out a great live show for people? Obviously, everybody's sounding good, sound checking, everybody playing their parts well. But what do you, as a guy who's just a front man without an instrument in his hand, what do you think? When you come off the stage, what goes on that makes you say, "Wow, that was a successful live show"? I mean, like, what are you looking to give the people in a live experience?
I just want people to stand there and watch, man, and look. And when people are watching, that, and unfortunately, they pull the phones out and stuff, and you're like, that's cool. That's cool.
I'll tell you, AJ, back in my day, it was a lighter.
Yeah. There's for a metal band, you want the mosh pit. You want people, you want interaction. But I've come to the point now that I know that I'm developing, and my main job is to get in front of people, for people to come back and say, I will press that like button. I will subscribe. I will buy a ticket. I will buy a shirt. I've got to put everything I've got into that 30 minutes, that 40 minutes, that 20 minutes, that 1 hour. I'm going to put everything I fucking have into putting this show on.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you go out and do a show on the bill that you're on right now, obviously Five Finger Death Punch, a wildly popular band right now. So
Yes.
that certainly helps ticket sales. But when you see a headliner and you're going out with a band like Megadeth, now obviously a guy like Dave Mustaine, a legend for many years in the thrash world, with a built-in audience right there. Does it make the pressure even more to be going out and opening for a band that we could certainly say are legends?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's what's special about this tour. Like I said, we've gone out with Five Finger Death Punch twice before, and yes, they are wildly successful right now and very popular and probably one of the biggest bands around. But yeah, I mean, it's Dave Mustaine. I mean, we did play with them in Germany. We did a few shows with Five Finger and Megadeth in Germany and Holland and somewhere else, or just this summer. And Dave was very kind, and he came up and he spoke to me and he called me by name, and he had some very kind words to say, but he also had some pointers and some things. And I thought that was no one else has done that.
That's what I was going to ask you. So what kind of wisdom do you glean from a Dave Mustaine? Is there anything that really stuck with you and resonated with you that he told you about the music business, or just any advice in general?
It's just sometimes they give you practical advice, things that you hear, how to take care of your voice. What could be a little bit, maybe I got a little too aggressive with the people on stage because I was trying to get a reaction. And you can see that. And he's like, I can see the frustration of you trying to really interact, but you're not going to win them all, stuff like that. And that's practical advice.
Sure.
But, what comes with that advice is being in the same room with fucking Dave Mustaine. And Dave Mustaine telling you that. So not only are you getting inspired by what he's telling you, I'm just getting inspired by the fact that I'm in the room with a rock legend, with a god, with a metal god, That in itself is that's the treat. That's
pretty
the treat.
awe-inspiring.
That's where the real lesson is. And it's awe-inspiring. The real lesson is, how do you maintain and how do you get to be where that guy is?
And now, do you have any superstitions, any pre-show rituals? I've been very candid on here. Like me, Rex Ruger, I've gone, being the king of sleaze here, I've gone on record as saying my pre-show ritual, and this is no secret, is I like to do a line of cocaine off of a stripper's ass.
That's my buddy. My buddy used to say that kind of
shit. No, seriously though, do you have any pre-show rituals or things to take care of your voice? Little things that you pick up?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always a half hour to 45-minute warm up, but then I always have this thing that I tell myself.
Yeah.
And it might sound self-centered, it might sound pretentious, but I tell myself, like, I'm just as good as any one of them, and I start listing them off. I tell myself, I'm just as good as Maynard. I'm just as good as Chino. I'm just as good as Mike Patton. I'm just as good as LeJean Witherspoon. I'm just as good as Corey Taylor. I'm just as good as Chris.
You're almost as good as Rex Ruger.
I'm almost as good as Rex Ruger. But I tell myself that not because I'm like, I'm better, but I tell myself that because I've dreamt and aspired to be in the same company and be mentioned in the same company as those people.
Well, and the mind is a powerful thing, though, too. To tell yourself a mantra like that, and actually take it to heart, it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I go with.
Now, talking about your upbringing in New York City, the last show that I went to a couple months ago, I went to see a couple of New York hardcore legends, Agnostic Front and Sick of It All. Huge New York bands, that have that punk rock, hardcore, do-it-yourself mentality, a lot of social issues. I hear a lot of punk rock influence in you guys' music, and obviously talking about a lot of the causes and stuff. What specific punk acts had an influence on you? Because I can hear the punk in there.
Oh, man, dude. Me, The Business, Jesus Christ. Obviously the Pistols. Obviously, I like the Toasters. I loved I love the hardcore stuff, like of course, Madball, of course, Agnostic Front,
Yep.
of course, Vinny Stigma's. Vinny Stigma is a legend. All the DMS stuff I was really into.
Yeah.
Sub Zero, Gorilla Biscuits, Integrity, Earth Crises. You know, more of the metalcore stuff. You know, a lot of that early Victory stuff was VOD. You know, being like New York based bands, like that was my shit. You know, I loved a bunch of stuff out of England, but everything that I listened to when I was a kid was more ska reggae. You know, so I listened to the Specials and I heard the Madness, you know, and the Toadies and all that kind of stuff. You know, Toots and the Maytals, all that kind of stuff that inspired. But when it came down to straight up hardcore, like New York hardcore was my, you know, damn, man, like Candiria, all those bands out of Brooklyn, that was like really what kind of shaped my delivery. You know what I'm saying? Because it was real, you know, demonstrating my style. And I always feel like that, you know, that's kind of, I listen to that stuff to this day before the set because I want to go out there and I want to demonstrate my style. And I want to demonstrate my style because I was born in the Bronx, because I lived in gritty streets in London, because I've been through and suffered. And I want people to understand that created something in me and gave me this spark and this fire. And that fire comes from out the belly of a beast. You know what I'm saying? From those guys, like
love it.
From Freddie Madball. You know what I'm saying? Those dudes, like those guys, inspired me, man. And I want every day. I'm like, you know, Jamie Josta. You know, that's my dude. I watched Hatebreed recently when we played with him at Rockfest, and I was just like, this guy's a legend, man. And it's just the pinnacle of how high hardcore has gone. I mean, there's no other band that's a straight up hardcore band that's ever been bigger than Hatebreed.
Now,
you know?
now agreed. Now, now obviously, obviously, Fire from the Gods. You know, still very early in your career, so it might be too early to think about this. But have you thought about, or are you in the works of any side projects? I know that's a big thing with like metal guys. They a lot of them have their toes dipped in a lot of different projects. You got anything going on the side?
I'm working on a couple of things. I've talked to, you know, there are a lot of people in the industry that have been interested and have kind of been like, dude, you should really want to let's do this, let's do that. And I tried a bunch of stuff early on, but it was way too early for that. And even still, like you said, it's still quite early for in Fire's career. But I want to at some point start to definitely lay the foundation, because there's something else that I want to say and how I want to say it, and this doesn't necessarily have to be through the platform of Fire from the Gods.
Sure. Would you ever do like anything where take the metal aspect out of it and do anything that leans more hip hop?
Yeah, you know, I wanted to be, you know, I talked to Hyro the Hero.
Sure.
And I talked to Jason from Fever a lot, and we've been talking about doing something and mentioning it to each other and stuff like that. You know, like I think it would be a dope venture. Like, just see what it is, because, you know, Hyro's a rapper.
Sure.
You know I'm a metal guy that can rap.
Yeah.
You know, Jason is a punk dude that raps. Is a metalcore guy with a huge hip hop influence that has the swagger of a rapper. Right. So you know, I'm like, it might be. Let's see. You know, Hyro and I wrote a song together that was actually that was available via a cassette tape. Yeah, we had it featured on one of his songs, but we actually had a real rap song that we wrote that you can only get via cassette tape. It was a Better Noise exclusive, and it's on a cassette tape. It's pretty dope because we're both products of the 90s and mixtapes.
Yeah. So what was your go-to rap song? You got one song to point at, man, and say, you know, this is my jam. This is my jam.
Damien, my DMX.
Okay, you're a DMX guy. R.I.P. to the grist and peace to the great DMX. Yep.
R.I.P. to the GOAT, man. DMX. That's basically DMX, 50 Cent, Jay-Z, Biggie. Those are probably my, you know, Nas.
Yeah.
I'm so dedicated to New York rappers. It's criminal.
But you also
there's so many cool dudes out on the West, and there's so many cool dudes out of the UK and that. But when it comes to the GOATs, man, and my inspiration, man, DMX, 50 Cent, New York guys are king.
Now, obviously, you got a lot of, and you mentioned it before, a lot of Jamaican influence. Now, I know
Yes,
a lot of people, reggae's not, especially over here in the States, is not something that caters to a huge audience. Usually when you ask somebody about reggae, their first go-to is Bob Marley.
of
What I mean?
course.
That's
Bob
usually the
Marley and
person
Weed.
people identify with. Well, was he, because he was so politically active and such an anti-establishment guy, a lot like yourself? I see a lot of similarities. Was Bob Marley a huge influence?
Massive. My
Massive.
dad knew Bob Marley, man. My dad came from Trenchtown, so
Okay.
my dad, was that bridge
Yeah.
between my Jamaicanness, you could say, and my connection to reggae music.
Yep.
It came from in the womb. So Bob was a huge part, but other like Bounty Killer, Beanie Man,
Yep.
Ninja Man, Yellow
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
Ika Mouse. There's so many more that
Right.
influenced me more so than Bob. Bob's
Yeah.
message, obviously, of course, and Bob being the leader of a movement, but there are other artists out there that influenced me, I think, a little bit more. I mean, Bounty Killer might be one of my favorite reggae artists. There are Mad Cobra was one of them. My dad put on a show called Reggae Sunsplash in Brooklyn that was filled with a massive festival over a few days, filled with just reggae artists, reggae artists, reggae artists.
Yeah.
Guys straight out of Kingston, guys from Jamaica, guys from Trinidad, all over the Caribbean. So I
Right.
was around a lot of these type of artists.
Now,
And
you being a well-traveled, well-versed guy, who's experienced a lot of different cultures, what do you see? Because I'm intrigued by this, and I brought this up with other artists. What do you see the main glaring differences are when you do shows and/or festivals in the States as opposed to the European audiences? They just seem to really be more passionate about their metal over there. I mean, what's your
Dude,
experience?
they have so much love for heavy music. It's not even
Yeah,
funny.
they really
And
do.
I hate how, because we have so much passion here in America
Yeah,
for things, right? We
yeah,
get behind our favorite football team, or we
yeah,
get
yeah.
behind our favorite, we are diehards about the city or the state we come from,
Sure.
so it's like that sort of passion is what we're known for. And
Right.
that's where metal was known for, because it was crazy. But now it's like we're just not showing that same sort of enthusiasm. And I think a lot of it's because the fans are getting older and the kids aren't specifically into traditional rock and metal. But you go to Europe and they don't give a shit. They're just
Right.
like, oh, there's drums, there's guitar, there's loud vocals, let's go.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and the festivals, man, just people on a wide scale. But someone asked me this in an interview about the same subject, and I like to just say that I think it's accessibility. Where the economy is these days, a lot of people can't travel to Ohio for
Yeah.
incarceration. They
Yeah.
can't travel to Florida for Welcome to Rockville. They can't get on a fucking cruise and go on Shiprock.
Right.
Not everyone can do that. So I think that kind of limits the options and the mediums and how people access rock and heavy music these days.
Yeah.
And it's on the radio in Europe. It's everywhere you look in Europe. The big posters and the signage are still there. That doesn't exist that much in the United States anymore.
Right. So what's next for Fire from the Gods? When will we see the next album?
Well, we're looking to get out in late this year, man. There's what happened with COVID, and we're starting to live in this post-COVID world.
Yeah.
Every man and their dog are putting out a record, and it seems to be with Fire from the Gods, we seem to be always following the big boys.
Yeah.
Every time we've put out a record, and their cycles are just starting, which is good because it
Right.
helps us get into that crowd and the algorithm. But it also works against us because we're talking about people with 20, 30 years in the game.
Right.
Korn's put out a record, Slipknot's putting out some new stuff, Mudvayne's back, so they're gonna put out new stuff. Metallica's putting out new stuff, and then there goes Little Old Fire from the Gods.
Yeah.
So we kind of caught that wave, and it's all right that we're catching those windows because at least we get mentioned.
Are you
around
the
there. So
are you the fifth and final vocalist for this band? Can we call it a day now?
yeah, 1000%. I mean, we definitely have our little squabbles, but I love Fire from the Gods. I love what I do, and I love my band dudes. You know what I'm saying? We're getting to a point where we're learning to live with each other because we didn't meet traditionally. We met kind of via the internet and via
Yeah.
people kind of put us together, so to speak. No one constructed the band, but we were introduced by various music industry entities, and it just worked out.
Obviously, people can find you guys on all the major music platforms.
We're everywhere.
Fire from the Gods, probably on all the social media platforms if you want to find out stuff. But when does the tour start with Five Finger and Megadeth?
August 19th, I believe, is the first date.
I know the closest date to me is in Syracuse, New York, because that's where I'm closest to.
Well, I got you, brother. You get in touch with me, and you get in touch with me, and I put you on that guest list, and we'll hang out.
That would be great. That would be great. That would be great because obviously, and that was the next point that I was going to bring up, not for a charitable handout, but concerts have gotten very expensive. You know what I mean?
1000%.
The whole concert experience has gotten very expensive, and that's very kind of you to say, to put me on a list. But sometimes, though, and I do work in healthcare, and me and my wife do pretty good, but sometimes, though, like when you're seeing these, like I just spoke to somebody who just recently got a Bruce Springsteen ticket in the nosebleeds and paid $1,200.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's accessibility.
It's getting pushed out of the consumer's hands. I remember my first concert and Justice for All tour, Metallica. I told this story before. Wow. $30 was my whole night. $18 for a ticket, $12 for a shirt, and there you go. I mean, that doesn't even get you a parking spot in the garage anymore. You know,
no.
I mean, it's pretty sad.
It's accessibility. It's accessibility.
Yeah.
Kids can't access it. The normal fans that really want to go can't access it, and they're just like, shows are too expensive. The festivals are too expensive, and that's unfair.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So what's the big dream going forward for Fire from the Gods? Like, where do you see the big plan in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
I want to be, man. I want this record is, as I've said, coming up, is very accessible. We took a shot at something. We wanted to try something out. My mind was in a different place, and we were in a different headspace. So we put out this record that we're proud of, but I want to see this record open more doors for us. And by opening more doors, not just getting us into more rooms or getting us on tour, but really getting us into people's homes and people's heads, and people really saying like, wow, this band is kind of cool.
Yeah. So when you say you tried some different things, is this going to be one of those things where you think it'll stay true to the sound, the blueprint you've already laid down, or will this confuse the hell out of the fans and cause an angry uproar of a riot? Is this going to be?
No, man. One thing that is you're never going to escape with us is when you hear Fire from the Gods, you go, okay, that's AJ's voice.
Yeah.
So you're never gonna lose that, and that's never gonna, and I think that keeps the fan, that keeps a bit more of an intimate connection because someone can recognize your voice. That's why I think Tool and Deftones and all these bands have done so well because it's so recognizable. It gets under your skin and it gets into your DNA, so to speak. But so we've not lost that edge. It's still Fire from the Gods, but we just tried to give it a different twist.
Well, if you ever want to get experimental, and go the sleaze metal route, I'm your guy.
Dude, I got a bunch of fans, and what was it? My buddy was wearing a band called Cousin Sleaze, actually, that's so funny.
Cringeworthy,
Steel Panther are really good buddies. Those dudes love us. I love those guys. Yeah. Had a really kick-ass time with them in France. Seen them a bunch. So if it's loud and it rocks, man, it's for me. I don't give a shit.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I love what you guys do. You're such an interesting guy. I could literally sit here and talk to you. You've been so generous with your time, man. I really appreciate the time. And hopefully we will see the moment when you and Rex Ruger and Dave Mustaine are all sitting in a room together at this show. 3 great frontmen hashing it out, right?
Come shake my hand and come up to that show, brother.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're offering, I'm there, buddy. I'm there.
Yeah, I got you, man.
I would love it, man. I would love it. You're such an interesting guy, and like I said, you've been so generous with your time. I just love talking to you, man. And
thank you, man.
I wish you the utmost continued success, man. Looking forward to the new record, jamming the hell out of the old record. I invite my audience out there, the SCUM universe out there, to go check out Fire from the Gods, amazing, and you're an amazing guy. The band is amazing, and I salute you, man, and I appreciate you coming on, buddy. I really do.
Thank you very much, my brother. You could.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully we can do it again sometime. Stay in touch,
sir.
and I'd love to have you on again. Yeah.
Fire from the Gods. In us we trust, unite or die. I'll see you guys out there.
Yes. All right, brother. Love you.
All right, cheers, man. You have a great one.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, AJ. Thank you.
Bye now. Peace.
All right. Bye-bye. There you have it. AJ Channer, swell guy, smart guy, talented guy. And if you haven't checked out Fire from the Gods, that's the name of the band. American Sun came out in 2019. That was the debut album. You heard it here first on SCUM. New one is going to be coming out here towards the end of the year. About to go out on a huge tour with Five Finger Death Punch and Megadeth. And these guys deserve it. These guys are putting forth, if you like and I don't want to say the rap heavy metal fusion, because it really isn't like that. AJ is a guy who first and foremost sings and delivers a kick-ass rock performance with undertones of MCing in there. But you got to go check it out to really truly appreciate it, man. But it is really good stuff, and I invite everybody to go out there and check out Fire from the Gods. And I want to thank AJ for coming on SCUM. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you guys on the next episode. And as always, take it easy and keep it sleazy.